school board meeting. This is fun. We don't usually have it outside with so many people. So we wanted to start the evening here with a small dedication, and I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Brooks.
So, this playground equipment, it started as a twinkle in Lola's eye. Where is she hiding? And it was, she envisioned this 3 or 4 years before it happened. She knew that it should happen. She was our treasurer, and her penny pinching made it possible. But it was really a collaborative effort. I mean, the most harmonious collaborative effort I've ever seen. There were so many people who, without this person or without that person, it just wouldn't have happened. Deb Gass found us the clerk of the works, Scott McCusick, who without him we could have never done it. We ordered the equipment before we even had any idea how much over our head we were. It's not just a matter of finally having the money and then ordering the equipment. That's just the beginning. I'm going to ask Paul LaLiberté to say a few words, because it's really his initiative that this park should be named after the Rouleaus. I want to thank the entire school board. You were just really wonderful to work with.
Hello. If I may, on behalf of the Clark Canal Street Association, I would certainly first like to express our eternal gratitude to the school board for approving this project and for their assistance in our being able to finally recognize two of our favorite neighbors, Larry and Lois, for everything that they've done over the years. Although they're getting along in years and slowing down, this park will always be here as a reminder for everything that they've done. Thank you, Larry and Lois.
Larry and Lois spend most of their day doing something for somebody in the neighborhood, for children and families in the neighborhood. Lois works as a crossing guard, and Larry is always around to give somebody who doesn't have a car if they need a ride to the doctors or the store. And they just do hundreds of things every day for children and families in this neighborhood.
Hi, my name's Barbara Page, and I used to do the senior trips through the Brattleboro Senior Center, and I don't think people really appreciate all that Lois and Larry have given of their time and of themselves, taking away from their personal time. And when they used to join us on trips, it was a joy for everyone to have them. They always had some kind words. Larry was always helpful to people who sort of would get lost or disorientated. He helped me immensely. And I hope this neighborhood realizes how much that they've gained from having these people in their lives and what they've done for their children and their grandchildren and for the town of Brattleboro. Lois and Larry are certainly very dedicated people, and I hope you'll applaud them one more time.
Bravo.
We're coming to you so that you can say whatever you two would like to say.
Okay.
I think it's appropriate at this time. So.
I want to thank everybody for coming here. Never in my wildest dreams I'd be here accepting this. Thanks to the ones that worked with us before, and they're all passed away now. But I'm sure they would have been tickled to death just to see all these people here. God, I don't know what to say. It's a hard act to follow.
Bravo! Well done. Bravo. Congratulations.
I think that we're it's officially the first part of our school board meeting. I'm sure you all want to come in and join us for the rest of it. But thank you all for your dedication to this little part of the world, especially to the two of you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so whenever you're ready, Deb, we'll call. Okay. We'll start again. I guess we're already in order.
All right, so I'll turn to our chair. Let's start the meeting here in
Okay.
We will call the policy council meeting to order at 5:15. And we will jump straight to the secretary and treasurer's report. Brenda?
I don't have a secretary's report.
Okay, so the minutes are in these packets, and you should have the minutes from the last two policy council meetings that we held. One was our regular meeting on April 27th, I believe, and the other was a special meeting a week or two before that, specifically about our refunding application options. See if I can, so those minutes are there. Make a motion to accept this report. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
So we'll move on to Brenda with the treasurer's report.
Sure. One thing that I need to do before I forget is to pass out the credit card statements for your review. And for the other members here, it's one of our Head Start requirements that credit card expenditures get reviewed by our policy council every month, so I bring them for them to look at. And Deb, if you could pass this out.
So what's coming around is the monthly report for the period from March 1st, or I'm sorry, for the period that ended in April.
Yep.
So for the month of April.
And you'll notice at the top, what I'm doing is I'm tracking our budget on our current year budget, but the government has only released to us at this point approximately 50% of our funds, and that's what I'm tracking to, that 50%, because they're waiting for approval of Plan C that Doug referred to. And once that's approved, then the rest of the funding will be released. And I just recently submitted that Plan C in the system, the financial system, and we're requesting, as a result of all the changes, that about $50,000 is going to be moved from our Head Start line to the Early Head Start line, and that reflects the increase in the Early Head Start slots that we're doing. And also, the government has requested that I reallocate some of my admin costs from Early Head Start to Head Start. So that $50,000 shift really reflects the net effect of those two changes. But you can see here that we're doing okay to budget at this point. A follow-up to the previous meeting, one of you asked a question. There was a $40 expenditure to the Policy Council line, and we didn't know what that was. What that was registration for one of our parents to go to the Vermont Head Start Association meeting that happened in March.
Brenda, I always ask about the in-kind. And it looks like in the minutes it said you were quite doubled on what you would normally at this point, and then here it's
Last year.
98% remaining.
Yeah, yeah.
And that's because it just started?
We start slow, usually, and hopefully pick up. But we're still carrying on from last year, kind of a competition among the different centers. And at the last staff meeting, I showed the numbers. And interestingly enough, Canal and ITC were neck and neck. And I kind of was ribbing Canal Street because, as you know, ITC is one classroom and Canal Street is 4 classrooms. So get going. And so we try to keep a little fun in that. Hopefully we'll pick up. So that's where we are. One more thing. You'll notice that down the USDA stats are all blank 0 this month. The reason for that is I generally use our invoice to put the numbers in, the statistics, but the state system has been down because they're revamping it. And so we are about 2 months behind the invoicing for our food program at this time. But we internally have all the paperwork ready. As soon as the system is up, we will be running, and I'm sure, Ron, your people are facing the same thing. We can't get our money at this point, but we're ready. And Deb, I don't know if you want me to talk about the 2 proposals that we need to, or that's going to be part of your...
No, I think you can include it in your report. I can, when you're ready, I can pass out you talk about the COLA first.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, we'll wait for the COLA, but if you want to talk about the carryover,
okay,
that would be good.
Okay. Numbers. We have money left over from the Westminster project, and you all will remember that that was a carryover from a year prior. And we're going to use those funds to do several things at the Westminster site. But construction being what it is, we kind of fell behind, and the well did not get finished by the time the funding end date came. So we didn't have the well finished, but we did have money left. So the government is going to let us request to carry that forward again so we can finish the well. We're very pleased with the well. It was drilled and the water quality is better than the water we're using now. What we've got left to do is install the filtration system. That's going to be required. That's going to be part of the carryover from that money, and then the money from last year. What we're going to do, there's several other projects we're working on that we're going to use the money for. There's some safety, emergency safety things that we need to work on, both at Westminster and at Burge. We've already completed it here at Canal Street, but as we are working on our equipping our staff to respond to emergencies, we have found that some of the emergency alert equipment is outdated and needs to be updated, plus expanded. Because at Burge Street, for example, we have no emergency equipment on the 2nd floor in terms of staff being able to push a button and get help. So we want to expand the system so we can give that ability to the staff on the 2nd floor, as well as Wyndham Child Care and the dental center. We need to work on Westminster. The 78 doesn't have its emergency panel and panic button system in place, so we need to add to what's at 54, that will include 78. So those are projects we're completing with this money. Also at Westminster, we have a shed there that needs to be replaced outside 54, the teachers are using for playground equipment, and we're going to need one for the new playground at 78, so that's part of it. Also, the fencing, we need to expand the fencing in the playground, and again, as we were reviewing our emergency procedures, we want the students and staff from one building, if they need to evacuate, be able to take the children across to the other building inside the fence, which means we're going to have to make some cuts and some adaptations there to do that, to keep the kids in the fence and keep them safe, but able to move if one building has an intruder and the others can get out to the other building. That's what we want them to do, and not have to worry about heading out to the road and crossing parking lots. So those are the projects, and then as you know, we are doing 2 new classrooms this year, so if the rest of the money will be put toward those projects. So in total, it's just over $51,000. So if we could have your approval on that, would be great, because we need to submit that soon.
Sorry, you want a policy council approval and then probably a board,
Yes.
right?
Make the motion to approve.
I second.
In favor?
Aye.
And do we have a same motion over here?
So moved. Second.
And any discussion, all in favor?
Aye. No, don't. So are we gonna just skip your director's report?
Actually, I did table it in the essence of time. Really what we need to talk to is, what I need to speak to is really under the other agenda items.
Okay. So let's skip straight to the parent committee reports. Jen?
I forgot my notebook. We had a lot of parents again. I think around 15 or so, 17. Deb came and answered a lot of our parents' questions. It was awesome. Thank you, Deb.
So can you say for the purpose of the audience which parent committee you're representing?
I represent Early Head Start in Westminster.
I represent Head Start in Westminster.
And I represent, I'm the alternate in Westminster's Head Start.
And typically our Westminster parent committee meetings always have exceptional attendance, and this certainly was the case. And it was a robust meeting, I will say, and I promise to come back once we have more concrete answers from the National Head Start Office in terms of their decision on our proposals.
Is there an active parent group right now in the other facility? No.
We are really struggling with parent involvement, and this council, at least these 3 core members, along with Kim and Chad, who is actually on his way, I'm surprised he's not here, really have been the council for the last 1.5 to 2 years. And we have looked at all kinds of alternative solutions to bringing in more parents, including, having our meetings different times of the day, different days of the week. But for whatever reason, our families are really busy and unavailable. So this is a representation. In terms of the parent committee meetings that happen every month, and in response to your question, those are still happening, and we do have a better turnout, but it's nowhere near what we see in Westminster. Westminster's a very different community. Really very involved.
This is good.
Okay, so we'll move on to the old business of the refunding application.
So our option C that we spent lots of time on in both committees has been submitted. It has, Brenda uploaded the final pieces again to our system, to our national system last week, and our regional office is putting the final touches and their final blessing on it this week. So we are hopeful that it will be passed from the federal perspective. The money that we have, as Brenda said, really that we have approved to operate will take us through the end of June, and the rest of it is kind of in a holding tank waiting for this approval. So fingers crossed that we will receive a speedy response. I'm not sure that will be the case. I've heard from my colleagues that they waited a long time for an answer, so we'll see how that works. We are moving forward as much as we can on the assumption that it will be approved. So as Brenda said, we're moving ahead with our renovations of the Westminster Early Head Start site. We actually had a bid walkthrough yesterday, and we had one bidder, so the bids are due like next week, I think the 15th, and hopefully we'll have that space ready to go for September for 8 new Early Head Start children and an extended playground that is suitable for that age group.
And it was the contractor, by the way, that did the other side, so he's very familiar with us and our needs, so we were happy that he came.
Yes, GPI, it was GPI. So that's the news on where we are with our refunding application. Is that we are still waiting, but we've at least moved it.
So what happens on July 1st if we haven't heard anything?
My assumption is that when we're getting near that deadline, if there has not been the federal approval, our regional office will give us approval for maybe another 2 months of funding so that we're always able to continue operating at status quo until all of those changes have been approved.
Yeah, and our submission will help them do that, because now that they know that they're looking at the $50,000, they know that they can let money go until that $50,000. So that will actually help them release in increments.
Is there have we, or you guys as management, set a date that we've decided that if we don't hear by August 15th, that we just plan to continue with the previous budget and continue? Is there a cutoff date, I guess is what I'm asking?
No, because we can't imagine that they would do that. But if it gets to be July and we haven't heard anything, I think we should look at making a decision within that month. So this is when we really start back in. Yeah. And the regional office knows that time is pressing for us, and so we're hoping that they'll push it through from their end as well.
Okay. So we just want to slide from there right into new business?
Yes. So I am going to pass around notification that we received earlier this month for everybody to take a look at. This is the official word that we are receiving $45,241 in our Head Start and Early Head Start program to provide a COLA, cost of living allowance. And the mandate is that it is at least 1.8%, which Policy Council approved at our meeting last month. And I'm asking for a revote because when we actually work the numbers out, we can offer every employee a 2% COLA. And there's enough money in there to do that, and also to address the increases in the correlated fringe benefits. So that's great news. So I'm asking for the joint vote tonight to approve the submission of our cost of living allowance increase of 2% across the board for all Head Start and Early Head Start. Actually, all EES employees will receive that 2%.
Yeah, just to be clearer, the reason that we can go from 1.8, it's 1.8 on all of the operating costs. But what we're saying is we're going to forego using that on operating expenses, instead put it all toward salaries and fringes for the employees. That's why it's going from 1.8 to 2.
And that covers FSSs as well?
Everyone.
Moved. Second.
Favor?
Aye.
Same thing, you need a motion on this side?
Moved.
Second.
All in favor?
No, what is going to have? I think we should have, okay, I can say something. So, as you know, Brenda and I have been meeting with Ron and Frank to look at adjusting specifically the teacher salary scale, but really the overall big picture. And simultaneously, we've been working with an outside agency to revamp our salary scale. And we are very close to providing increases that are more than the 2% for many staff positions. There's one more meeting that we'll be having next week to finalize those numbers. But Brenda has done a lot of work in putting a draft together that we looked at, and kudos to her. It's a job well done, and it really makes adjustments across the board that provide for parity and equity. And there's also a federal law that it's going to be in effect soon, raising the minimum wage requirements and also the salary of an exempt employee versus non-exempt, so that managers, our coordinators are considered exempt, and so those salaries have to be adjusted. And so that's all embodied in this work that we've been doing. And I think when we have our meeting next month, I'll have a product to present to you.
When do your contracts go out for your employees?
July 1st.
And when would your next meeting be?
Do you want to have another meeting in June at the end of the month and not have one in July? It might be better to do that.
I will be available from June 25th to the 30th.
Okay. So, I think,
We'll have a meeting on the 29th, and I would suspect that I'd want Brattleboro Town to support that as we would policy council.
okay, I can do that. So we'll have our meeting in July, and we'll just do it in reverse.
Yeah, as long as it doesn't hold up contracts.
I think we'll be fine.
Okay.
So if the salaries are looking to go up, where would the money be coming from? Just quick.
So some of the money is actually coming from the option C. That was the original intent, but really what it became as we delved into it was more about addressing quality and raising the bar on qualifications. And the other is some money that we've been in reserve, that we've been holding on to, and Act 62. So all of those monies, the preschool funding, will help to address those.
And we've been looking to do this for a number of years, and I think we just need to sit down and look at the scales that Brenda provided and think about the equity in terms of the assistant teachers are pretty close to our support staff salaries, but the lead teachers are not. And I think that was the focus, that we need to get those salaries up.
So I should put that on the agenda though for our
June 29th.
June 29th meeting. We're going to need to approve something.
Well, we'll talk about it. I don't know that approval is really necessary because you don't typically, I mean, we can look at the salary scale. I'm not sure that there are any approvals that need to happen on either end, which is why I'm holding back a little bit about, because typically the role of policy council is hiring and firing, and when employees are hired, it's approving their date of hire and their qualifications and their rate of pay at that time. So, but certainly the scale will be something that I want for full review of both boards. A lot of work has gone into it. It's really taken, between the two efforts, the efforts of working with the salary study committee and the work that we've been doing with Ron and Frank in a number of months, almost a year.
So I'll have it on the June 29th to show you what will come in.
I have one other that is late-breaking hiring recommendation. If you could squeeze that in, that would be great, and then we can adjourn this meeting. We do have food. The hiring recommendation is for a substitute teacher. The candidate's name is Lindsay Slade.
Didn't we talk about this last time, whether this is something that should be or shouldn't be in an executive session on camera? I don't remember what we decided.
I think we went into executive session. Yeah.
Right? I think. So we would need a motion from our board to go into executive session.
So moved.
Or you have to say specifically what it's for, personnel matters.
Personal matter.
So we're off for a few seconds, all right.
Break for supper, and the food is here somewhere, so I'm gonna go find it. It should be next door.
Deb, do you want me to adjourn our portion of the meeting?
Yeah.
Okay, so I'll adjourn the policy council portion of the meeting at 5:40.
Okay, so we'll take a short break and see if we find food somewhere that's supposedly. Let's see Deb right over there. I'd rather just continue on and then some food is officially there. Yeah? We're going to check and see if Deb is right there with the food. If not, we're going to continue. It's the
Policy Council always does food for the meeting.
It's part of the USDA thing. It's like feed everybody. Well, it's for all of us this time too, but it's always a part of policy.
Do you see Andy?
If Andy moves up a little bit, yeah.
Here you go. Thank you. I got one. So you can see your handsome face.
Try not to get
So you see the really long pause there?
wanted, still wanted the two speech.
What are you doing? That's
Okay, so then we're going to go ahead and continue while what's going on. We were already called to order. We've done the dedication. I think I need to have an approval of the minutes and the agenda.
Second.
Any discussion on the minutes, on the agenda? All in favor?
Aye.
Right. And we have no groups or individuals here. So we're on to administrative reports. Andy, you're on, that's it, something?
Yeah. I move that we accept the review of the ratification of the warrants and the payroll authorizations.
Thank you.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Andy, now we're on to you.
To you. Monthly reports are coming around. Just one thing of note, well, of note, I should say. Number of children in foster care from Academy School is risen to 7.
And you've added on here the DCF report. Thank you.
Is that from DCF to you or you to DCF?
That's reports that we've made
In
to
the last month.
DCF. The 31 is not in the last month, that's the running total.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
So that's one.
Now, could that be multiple reports on the same child, or is that?
It may be in 1 or 2 cases,
Okay.
but for the most part, that's 31. It's 31 different reports that we know of. Again, staff by law have the ability to report without letting any of us know. So, but generally we're informed of a report. We have an internal system to keep track of that. And that's helpful. And that helps us to know how many reports have been filed on behalf of one child over a period of time.
So can you give us an idea of what types of things would be reported?
Well, by statute, by Vermont law, it's neglect or abuse. Some of them are medical neglect, where kids have significant medical or health issues that over a long period of time are ignored, and that would be after we have tried with our social worker to intervene with the family, after we've had our nurse intervene, Mary or I may have intervened, and this is over a long period of time, repeated efforts to no avail, and the student medical condition continues, so it becomes medical neglect in the file. That is happened several times this year. Of course, physical, student comes in with a bruise, reports to his teacher, or she reports to his teacher that something happened and they were struck by an adult. Nurse examines the child in most cases, and then if there's a bruise or something telling in the story, the child has a story to back it up, then there'd be a report. So quite a few like that. So I don't have a number in terms of how many have been neglect. Most of them, however, are abuse, not neglect. It's much harder for DCF to actually accept it as neglect than it is abuse. If it's physical abuse, they're more apt to respond. Because many times the law requires a report, but doesn't mean that the DCF will accept it. Sometimes they'll screen it out without investigation. Other times they'll investigate and then decline it. Sometimes they'll investigate and follow through. I'd say a few are attendance as well, students who are excessively absent at least. 3 in the last 2 months have been attendance for excessive absence. And I say excessive, significantly excessive.
Like weeks.
Yeah.
Weeks.
I don't know if you guys are putting that on your numbers yet, but I think it's something, unless the rest of the board feels differently, that we want to track, right? I think it's a good figure to know, just like the foster care one that we just started looking at, homeless that we started looking at in the last year as well.
It's not included.
All right, so we'll let Andy finish.
Quickly I'll move to just some upcoming events. As you know, the school year is winding down, and on the 8th of June, Mary and I will have our annual SBAC lunch with personally about 31 students I think as of today who will be having lunch with us. And we have a system where students, while taking the SBAC, they'll get a stamp, and the stamp is for hard work and perseverance. It has absolutely nothing to do with whether an answer is correct or not, because we can't be looking at that. But the students who are persevering and continue to work on, they'll get a stamp which signifies good effort. And the stamp is then redeemable at the SBAC store, which consists of lots of trinkets and pencils and things of that nature, or baked goods that parents tend to bake, like cookies and things of that nature, and bring in. There's also what we call golden tickets, and the golden ticket can be, a student can turn in so many of their stamps. The different items have different values. So high on the list, very high on the list, are the golden tickets, where students can choose to work with the custodian for a period of time, Ricky Aether, or work with our, actually teach a PE class with Mr. Johnson, or do other things like that. And one of the choices is to have lunch with Mary and myself. And we, record numbers this year, 31. Now we do, I will tell you, in just a full disclosure, that we do a Chinese food luncheon. Not that that has anything to do with why kids are signing up. So that's really quite a treat.
So 31 in April?
31, yeah. Also on the 8th, that evening is our kindergarten night, and every year we have a little kindergarten graduation ceremony, where all the kids and the families come, and the songs sung, and the students bring home all of their work that evening, that's been kept by the kindergarten teacher. And you should probably know the 13th is moving up for all of us. We have a rotation where, I forget the times, but are you?
We're 5 o'clock.
5 o'clock?
5:30. You're 6.
No, we're 5:30.
No, we're 5:30.
And on the 14th, which is the last day of school, we're using them. Part of that morning is our step-up day. So kindergartens go to first grade goes to second, so on and so forth on the 14th. And I do have, I don't know if you want to do it now, but I have someone that I'd recommend to hire. You want that?
I don't think it is,
No.
because we always do it,
We always do this one open, it's just
because there's no salary on it.
So we have a 6th grade opening. I think at one of the previous meetings, Julie Rosenberg announced her resignation. She's moving to Portland, Maine. And we have been searching for a 6th grade candidate, interviewing lots of people, and we have hired Christy Wilson, who is teaching at an international school in Panama City, Panama.
So you did the first interview at least by Skype. Did you do the second one by bringing her up?
No.
Everything was by
All
Skype?
Skype. So, which I have to say, I've never been a big fan. I've always felt like you've got to see these people in person before you hire them. And that's changed. Last year we hired someone teaching at an international school in London, and we did all the interviews by Skype. That's worked out great, and so we did the same thing. So it's really, I don't think it's really would be correct for us to interview someone out of the country and say, well, you have to fly here and incur the cost of airfare, hotel expenses and so forth for an interview. Would be a bit much, so we Skyped, and of course we check references there as well. I've spoken to her principal and assistant principal on the Skyped, but use the Skype telephone, not the video.
So I entertain a motion. Does anyone like?
Also moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That's fine. We're all looking so hard because we don't see one from town on.
No?
We're all.
I'm going to start opposing things just because I feel like somebody should.
And,
Not this one, not this one. This looks amazing.
Yeah, she looks really great. We're really excited to have her come on board. And Friday, we're interviewing several people for a 3rd grade 1-year position, open for professional leave. And one of the candidates is from an international school in Guadalajara. Now, she's no longer there. She is now in the States, so she will actually be in person. But it's interesting, and it's a small world that the person we hired last year, Rachel, from international school in London, was also, before that, in the international school in Guadalajara, and coincidentally knows her. And I do just want to bring to your attention, this is, no, it's not, board action is not required, but we have, we'll be taking Andrew Spino from Green Street for one of our 4th grade positions. So he's already a Bratttown teacher, so there's no need for you to more than that, so it's a transfer. Friend Mark gave him up.
Well, you got Brent.
What'd you get in return?
That's right, you got Brent.
Pretty good staff. Pretty good teacher.
Swap back and forth.
Yeah.
Future draft.
And today, I think I copied you, Andy, when I sent it out. The Academy caller came around to us today, and so I forwarded that third page she hadn't included, and the third page was the page of all the people moving around, which was fairly substantial.
It was like a soap opera.
Yes. It was like a chess game of who could go where, whatever. So if you haven't checked your email today, the rest of the board, you have a list of that they submitted around to the parents.
Yeah, so Kelly Diaz came up from Oak Grove. So Kelly, Andrew Spino, and Colin Carasquillo were all my students at BAMS. That was Mark, a long time ago. Jerry, what do you do?
That's your student? Nice try. Maybe though.
She could have been.
Yeah. Good job,
Missed
Mark.
out on that. Okay, so
As was Mary
I think
Kaufman.
at this point is probably a good time to break for food.
And Andy can tell more stories.
Okay, so reports are on their way around. Top section with enrollment, some stats that we've been looking at as a group. Currently we have 7 students who are homeless. Did not add a column for students who are in custody, but I know that figure, so that can be added.
Their family?
Foster care, I'm sorry. So we have 4 students living in foster care right now. DCF reports over the past, or police department safety checks. Over the past 2 months, we've had 20 calls. 14 of those have been DCF reports. And
So this is in the last month? 20?
since the last 2 months.
And you were 31 for a whole year.
School year.
Is the difference because of the safety checks being included, and yours didn't include that?
So if you pull out the safety checks, it's 14 DCF calls.
Yours didn't include the safety checks.
What's the safety check?
A well child call.
Yeah, no, it doesn't.
So the fairer figure is 14.
Yep.
Although it's still 2 months to the whole year.
Yeah.
It's still a high percentage.
Yes, we have some
School year.
kids living in severe traumatic families. When those situations come across, you have to make the call and work with the agencies.
But I guess if you break that, I'm just kind of stuck on this. If you break it out by a percentage,
The basic
That's a
question,
lot.
is DCF responsive? Do they come, are they helpful, or are they?
They're short-staffed. I mean, they do what they can do.
'Cause I know they've come under a
But
lot
they
of
do.
scrutiny. You know?
I mean, they do the best they can with us, but they're very short-staffed.
We just had a attended school council meeting with the leadership team, with the principals, and we had representatives from BCF, HCRS, Big Brothers Big Sisters, Youth Services, all of the social service agencies, and kind of strategizing about, the fact that there's the lack of resources to really effectively intervene in these most challenging cases. So we're going to have a meeting in June with some of those providers, 2 principals, Becca Ballant, and talk about at the state level what sort of influence we could have in terms of resources.
Again, it's another eye-opening stat.
I think it underscores the importance of making the calls, because a lot of times you have to get used to the fact that the first call, that it's not going to always mean the best intervention happens right away, but you build a case and you keep doing the right thing and you keep calling, and eventually, they get to the high-profile case. I mean, when they're understaffed like that, the ones that have those files that have multiple reports do get paid attention to. So it's a longer timeline than I think some people would like to have, but doesn't mean that it's not necessary.
That's a good point.
Because if you don't continue to make the call, then it
Yep.
just gets dropped.
It's easy to drop off the radar.
Right.
And Ron, when you had this meeting, was that middle school and high school principals as well?
Yeah.
Or just elementary? And
All.
just Brattleboro or the whole
The whole
supervisory
admin
unit?
team.
That's you.
Everybody. And is Brattleboro unique in this?
Nope. No, and when I talk to my colleagues in other districts, I'm going through the same thing.
So that wasn't exactly my question, but I want to hear that too. Is Brattleboro unique as opposed to Putney,
I said no.
Vernon, whatever?
No,
And then outside of our supervisory union, it's not unique either?
no, they have the same challenges.
Are we in all of the counties?
State.
In terms of the foster care situation, that, what I've read is it's more acute in Windham County, where there was a lot of talk about it about a month ago when they published some numbers, and then at that point, the numbers of kids in foster care in Windham County went from 83 to 135 or something from 1 year ago, 83 a year ago to 135, and I've heard since that the numbers have increased a fair amount since beginning of May, perhaps.
And actively
Record
publicizing.
numbers of kids in foster care.
Actively publicizing the fact that more foster care families are needed as well.
And the main reason is the opioid crisis?
Seems to be a very significant factor. Yes, if not the number one.
I would agree with that. Moving on, we've had 2 new students join Green Street School, a grade 4 student who was previously homeschooled is coming back to Green Street School, and a grade 3 student coming to us from New Hampshire. We turn to the back of the report. We get to school-wide events and field trips. Those are just the various field trips that have taken place over the past month. Direct your attention towards the bottom. 6th grade versus staff kickball game will be on Friday, I think up at the Crow Lot.
Who's taking the bets?
1:45. If you show up, we'll put you on the staff team.
And then we do Gaga Ball at 2:30.
Right. That's the Gaga
I'm
Ball
working at
challenge.
home that day, maybe I'll go spend my lunch there.
So looking forward to that.
Friday.
The Heifer Parade, as you all know, is this weekend. We will have band students from all 3 schools marching in the parade. Samantha Fowler's been marching around the Green Street School grounds, getting those kids ready. I'm sure as well at the other 2 schools.
When they're dressing as animals. Chickens are the saxophones, that's all I know.
On June 6th, we are hosting a volunteer appreciation breakfast in the library. So we'll be putting together, the staff of Green Street School will be putting on a breakfast to all of our wonderful volunteers in the building, parent volunteers. So we'll be highlighting that in the newsletter and sending out invitations as well. We have a great supportive parent group. Last year we did an evening dinner. This year we're going to do the breakfast, and about 8 o'clock to 9:30 probably. Field day upcoming is June 10th. It's a tradition at Green Street. This year we have a dunk tank. Our librarian, Shannon Ruck, has put together a reading challenge for the students. So the students, the more minutes they read, the more tickets they earn. And in those tickets, they place the tickets by a staff member's name, or each staff member has a bucket who volunteered to be in the dunk tank. And the students place the tickets at the staff who they want to dunk. So regularly as I walk down the hallway, I hear, "I'm going to dunk you. You're going down." So I think I'm a big target.
Counted the tickets in your bucket?
Mary was asking for some more tickets, so I think we might try to ship some in there.
I don't know that.
So kids are also learning about probabilities.
Yeah.
So that'll be fun. That's a new thing. We haven't done that before in the past. But that's kind of the basics of things going on. It's kind of chaotic end of the year, exciting end of the year. I would like to highlight Mary Kaufman, who is finishing up her year mentoring with me in admin leadership. She's really been a pleasure to work with this year, and I think will make a super principal.
Thank you.
So also now I have a 5th grade teacher position to fill. Hopefully we'll be interviewing next week. And just an FYI, we have a special ed teacher who's taking a 1-year leave of absence for family situation. So I'll be bringing a name for a 1-year position in special ed as well. So hopefully for the June 10th, 29th meeting.
And we don't, for the June 29th meeting, will be okay for you still?
I hope so. Yes, I hope to have that wrapped up by then.
And you'll have, if any of you at that meeting don't have everything wrapped up, then we might have to do that special vote of giving you authority to hire without, because we won't be meeting again until August.
Yep. Coming around. So I'm prepared to this week. Yeah. I'm not reading your report.
Brenda, there is room. We can make room for you if you want.
He's like, I'm just fine off camera.
Yeah, she's really good. For both of you. They're around.
Thank you. So just listening to the DCF reports, I don't have DCF reports listed here, but I will say that what Mark was referring to in terms of DCF, asking, are they involved, are they helpful? We have about 5 family situations. The students are still with their families, but the DCF has been very, very involved in a wonderful partnership with helping us work with these families and keeping kids in school, keeping kids focused and helping families. So I just want to acknowledge that they're understaffed and overworked, and they had a dinner not too long ago, about a month ago, where they invited administrators, people from HCRS, a lot of kind of local partnerships. And I went to that dinner, and it was really talking about the foster care, the crisis of the number of students that are looking for forever homes, a number of students that are now placed in foster care, and they just don't have enough foster placements for these children. So it was quite eye-opening for myself and for many of the people that were there. We do have 3 new students. 2 are one family, kindergartner and grade 1. And then a 6th grader coming in to us from Athol, Massachusetts. If you go to the last page, or the back side, sorry, a couple things I'd like to highlight. Andy Davis has been, since 2004, been organizing an intergenerational chorus. Our 4th, 5th, and 6th grade choral students combined with seniors in the community, and they've been practicing, and they did a performance at the Brooks House, and then a week later they also performed. They walked down, they did the Thompson House in Pine Heights. They also performed at our All School Sing, not this week but last week, and it's just a wonderful opportunity for our students. Andy does a great job. So I didn't highlight that last week, but I definitely want to give a shout out to Andy and all the work that he does in that intergenerational course. We had a family breakfast. Heard that from Cafe Services, Donovan Hunt, who's our Cafe Service director for the town schools, always talked about academy this and academy that. And oh, they have these breakfasts. And so I'm like, well, what about a breakfast for us? What about us? And so I said, I'll do breakfast for you. So we set up this, our first breakfast, not really sure how many families we were going to have. We advertised it well, and we were busy, crazy. It was wonderful. It was last Friday. We served 88 students and 48 adults for breakfast, which comes out to about 71% of our families. The line was just like almost out the door, and he was making omelets as fast as he could. Nice Western theme. So he said he's coming back, and he'll maybe have time for Academy next year. we're on the list already. I already booked it. So it was a wonderful opportunity, and it was just a great way to start the morning. So it was a lot of fun. Yesterday, teachers were involved in benchmark data meetings. I'll just put a little plug in for some of the professional development that teachers are doing during the day with Paul Smith and Brian Bittner. We have preliminary SBAC scores. We were able to look at our fall, winter, and spring benchmark Ames Web data. So really getting a chance for our vertical teams to come together to look at our year's worth of data with our students to assess their growth, to think about interventions and how well they worked, thinking about students moving forward and moving up for next year and what type of interventions need to be in place for them. Again, with that transition of talking to the next grade level teacher, that here are some students that need to be in, still remain in reading support groups, math support, or enrichment, or boy, this intervention worked really great, and aren't we really proud of the work we've done because they've made great strides. So yesterday was filled with a lot of data, a lot of celebration.
Does that same sort of data get from the 6th grade up to 7th and 8th at BAMS?
It does. Everything gets passed because that was something that when I was at BAMS that I would receive from Paul or the sending schools. So that is dispersed and shared with the 7th grade team teachers. We have our variety show. This morning we presented the variety show. We had 19 acts, kindergartners all the way up to 6th graders. And we did that this morning at our all-school sing, but we'll also take the stage tomorrow night for families and communities at 6 o'clock. Yours truly is playing on the drums at the very end of the evening, so that was kind of fun.
Make sure nobody falls asleep.
What's that?
He'll make sure nobody falls asleep.
No,
yours truly is.
Not me.
Oh, you are?
Yeah.
Oh, I thought you had the...
Huh? Yeah, so I'm just back up for,
That's all drummers are.
Yeah.
I tell my students that all the time.
And of course, one last thing is that mark your calendars again for Oak Grove annual family picnic. That's Friday night, June 10th, from 4 to 6. Hot dogs, hamburgers, potluck, we field games, blow up things. Kona Ice is coming, and they're going to not that kind of blow, like an inflatable blow up
science
things for the
experiment.
kids to. Apparently, I mean, it's a lot of fun, and that's Friday, the June 10th, at Oak Grove, in the back there, big family picnic.
Is there one like that at Green Street too? Thursday nights at Academy. You don't have an end of year thing.
Family fun nights, I neglected to mention that. Academy Thursday night.
So, and at this time, we're fine with teachers unless Mark decides to take somebody for his opening. But right now we still have a couple para openings, and then our HCRS clinician has decided to stay home with her family. She just had a baby this year, so we, in combination with HCRS, will be looking for a school-based clinician. That's all I have.
You're a third grade teacher?
What's that?
You're a third grade teacher?
I do? I do not. No, my teachers are good. They stay put.
All right, so
I'm passing
Deb?
around,
Right here.
that's in the kitchen. I'll jump in while she's. So I'm passing around the list of the summer food program sites. There are others within the county, but these are the primary ones in Brattleboro town. So pretty similar to last year. Some of the sites on the right-hand side are closed because those are just the students or the participants of the program. The ones that are open, you can see Ledgewood, Moore Court, Memorial Park. Those are typically any student, any child that's in the area that wants to come and have lunch during that time. It's available and free. Some of the ones up at the middle school and career center, those are closed sites based on the, so with BAMS, it would be the summer school program. SCAM would be the
So closed
kindergarten
means
orientation.
it's actually functioning, but it's.
It's
set-
only
a set
open to
number
the
of kids.
participants that are part of the program, as opposed to,
Anybody go by?
Memorial Park, it's open to any student that's in the park area. So pretty impressive, and it's great that we have the support of Brattleboro Town School Board to go through the funding through this. Then I thought, I've got a few things later on in the agenda, but I thought since Chad is here, it would be good to pin down the meeting on the 29th to follow up to the preschool forum.
So did you happen to bring the wording that Lyle had written that I sent around? You happen to have that in front of you? Do you want to read it for me?
I will.
This is what I sent around and said we'd discuss it tonight and make sure was Lyle's attempt, and then I finessed it just a little bit of summarizing what we had said last time so that we can put out the right things to the next people and advertise it, because I mentioned to Lyle, I've heard from some people in the community that missed the last meeting and wanted to come to another one. And we're inviting specific people as well, so.
Yeah, so the Brattleboro Town School Board is planning a follow-up session to the May 4th preschool forum on June 29th at 5 p.m. at EES on Bird Street in Brattleboro. The first forum focused on what's available in our community and the needs that we have in order to make a lasting impact on our youngest citizens. We want to continue the conversation and gather more information, in particular on first bullet is wraparound services and the role of social agencies play. The role of social agencies play. Second one is the impact social services play in preschool education and how services are accessed. Third is addressing the need of 4-year-olds and their families in our community and developing possible next steps. In terms of who has been invited, I believe that some of the preschool providers are able to come. I don't have all the names, but Chloe, Margaret Atkinson, Chad, Sadie Fazee. Those are the names that I have at this point.
Any thoughts from anybody? Is that match what, yeah, Todd?
Well, I wasn't able to come to the last board meeting, so I'm just wondering how that process went or how those names were selected. I was
Mary
at,
Ross had a great, we should make sure you get that. I don't know if anybody has that. Dave, do you have it actually, that roundup, wrap-up that Mary had written that you could share with?
from the meeting that we had
Yeah.
before.
Right, well, she'd written something up that she gave us at our last meeting. That would be good for you to have. too.
Yeah. I just,
The names were kind of suggested as kind of, we popped up with names.
there was a lot of expertise in that room that, in the meeting that we went to, and as long as it feels like there's a group, I don't know all the names, the people that spoke at
That thing, you mean?
at the
Yeah.
meeting, but it seemed pretty important to have their perspective represented at something like this, so. But I don't know, I know I went up and talked to people afterwards, I don't remember everyone's name, but there's a lot of good thoughts around, at least the part where we're talking about the needs and next steps, that kind of thing, so.
So we have a list that I gave to Lyle off the top of my head that would advertise this. So that would go out to those same people, they were on part of the list, so they would be invited to attend again. The folks that are on the list that we popped up with Margaret and Chloe, I don't know that Chloe was at that last meeting?
She was not.
but I think Margaret and you, and then
Yep.
Sadie
was not either.
was not, but she's somebody that I was talking to next to lacrosse, and our daughter's on a lacrosse team. So that's how she ended up, but she's in charge of.
She's the Agency of Human Services Field Director for the Brattleboro and Bennington districts.
So she seemed like a good one to put in specifically for this. Any other specific names though that you had, Ted? And so we thought of advertising and putting the word out specifically through each of the schools, which would need to be done really soon because we won't have many more newsletters going home, I guess. But through the schools and then through the Facebook sites for each of the schools and then through Deb's network. And
Was there
Chad's
a,
network.
yeah, was there a Facebook event created for this?
No,
I know there was one for the last community forum, so and I think that is helpful to get out.
Yeah. Who did that? Who created
It must be Lyle.
It may have been Janice
Oh.
or Lyle, one of the two of them.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's a good
And then Building Bright Futures will obviously promote.
And that's actually what we talked about last week, Todd, was making sure that you got a lot of input from more people that are involved in the efforts rather than trying to figure it out on our own.
And Dave, did I summarize it correctly? I mean, we really wanted to focus on the wraparound services this time as opposed to just the broad
Yeah,
need
yeah.
and discussion of what we might do, but really looking at,
Yeah.
yes?
But I think it's funny because it's we try to identify the issue, but we don't live in a time where there are individual issues. Everything is related to everything else, and that's kind of the concept that I wanted to keep in mind as we looked at what we're going to do here.
Yeah, I was just struck at the meeting that we went to, just how
Range,
deep
yeah.
it was.
Yeah.
And just also pleased, or I don't know what you say, impressed, or it was nice to have smart people that know the issues and able to speak to them so that there could be awareness and then maybe some ability to start connecting some of these issues and help really solve a problem versus just sort of glazing over it. I mean, for me, listening, I was struck by how much I didn't really know. So I would not be the one that would be leading the charge to, it'd be nice to get the community's input in a meaningful way. So I'm just trying to speak to that. Hope that we include all the people we need to so we can really look at it.
Is this something that can go to the policy council and then the parent councils as well? I think this would be something that parents, I think, in terms of how to engage, the whole population, all families, I think it'll be important to get a variety of parent perspectives and what their needs, their unique needs may be in terms of how to approach public pre-K. I think, and there's a lot of nuance and complexities to this in terms of the economic impacts, what the developmental uniqueness between 3 and 4-year-olds as opposed to 5, 6, 7-year-olds. So I think giving a variety of voices will be really important.
Speaking of that, so Chad and David and I were at Let's Grow Kids Stalled at the Start.
Yep.
Correct? Maybe Dave and Chad, maybe you want to say something about that, just so the board. I did forward on to all of you, kind of, I think it was their press release that got forwarded on to the administrators too, that they had pulled together. But go ahead.
Yeah, so Let's Grow Kids is a statewide campaign looking at how to improve childcare across the state, the systems that support our children and families. And so this was kind of the release of their exhaustive report looking at how big the gap is between what families actually need in terms of childcare and early learning programming, and then the quality related to those programming, and what is actually exist across our state. And I don't have the numbers in front of me right now, but I think the headline is there's a big gap between what families have access to and what's actually available.
In the upper 80% of kids, and I can't remember which of whether it's really young or sort of young, but don't have access to quality programs. They may have access to programs, but not necessarily high quality ones.
Right.
Big numbers.
So essentially the infants and toddlers, so basically 0 to 3 is the age range they were looking at. And 85%, I think it was 85% of Windham County do not have access to high quality programming as defined by the state. So that was really the, go ahead.
I was asked, what was the definition of
high quality?
High quality.
Yeah, so the state uses the step ahead recognition system, so STARS. It's a rating system that goes from 0 to 5. So 0 stars is obviously it's a program that's not high quality, and 5 meaning a very high quality program. There's work happening right now at the state level looking at, is this really an accurate assessment of quality? Is this what we mean by quality? Is this what we want quality to look like? But really how the state and Let's Go Kids chose to look at the study is 4 and 5 stars. So looking at those as high quality programs.
And this is childcare, preschool?
Early learning programs, so specifically 0 to 3 because that's the number that they had, and then Act 166 will kind of make those numbers look different, as we get them, as the state fully implements this next year.
And one of my concerns and questions that I asked was, and it was an interesting question because it spewed off a lot of commentary I didn't expect. But I don't feel like when I check into a hotel, I always need a 5-star hotel. I like a 2-star for some other, there's different things for different purposes. And so we had a very, very forthright discussion on the stars and what that really means. And seems to be some disagreement amongst the various providers of how much the state's system really works. But the point that I thought kind of interesting, if you look at this, not so much from a school perspective, but an economic perspective of going out and advertising to the rest of the nation, Vermont, don't come here with your kids because we don't have any quality childcare is kind of the overarching headline if you looked at it that way. The other part of that that's not on there is that it only took licensed programs, and truly, nothing against what they tried to do because how could you do all of the rest, but it only incorporated licensed regulated programs who were 4 and 5 stars. So anybody who's doing child care with their grandmother or their own mother, the grandmother, the child, that's not included in this, or child care by taking your child with you to work or having some sort of any other arrangement outside of that is not included. So I guess I was hopeful at some point maybe we could see figures that would show like how many people really are not able to go into the workforce because of that. Although there were very compelling stories and anecdotal evidence of people paying lots and lots of money and basically not being able to pay anything left of their salary by the time they got done paying for early childhood care.
And I think how this impacts some of your discussions and the framing of it and asking those questions is really what's happening when the child gets into the school system. And what are you seeing? What are the impacts on the school system, the mental health system, the healthcare system, and then how is that impacting families? So I think obviously the two are not disconnected at all.
Okay, so I think that covers our preschool portion of this, yeah? Deb, you were out of the room when we were doing administrative reports. Did you have anything else to add?
No, I think my policy council,
And any committee reports, policy council, we just had energy committee, probably met, finance, anything to say?
I'm going to ask for a brief executive session based on the issue finance committee.
Okay, so anything to say right now for finance?
I got broke.
Thank you. Diversity, nothing, we just had the thing.
Just had the meeting today, had a good
May event.
I'm blanking on the date.
Beginning of May.
First Friday in May.
So what?
And I was thinking, Jerry, when you talked about intergenerational course, he performed there too, so he had a long one. But no, it was great, and Todd was great. Really nice that you were able to come with your son.
Yep.
So yeah, people had a lot of fun.
Jill,
Okay.
I do have one
Yes.
that I'd like to interject, and that is that the reason I wasn't at the last board meeting was because I was at a National Head Start conference with 7 other BES employees in Nashville. And it was, I think there were 4,000 folks there from all over the country. And it's always a great experience for some of our younger staff who have never been part of that greater world, and it's very validating for them. And so they reported to me that in some of the sessions they were involved in, they felt validated, and they felt that we were ahead of a lot of what other programs are doing in the country.
Okay, so I guess we'll move on to unfinished business. First one on there is Act 46, definitely unfinished. So, to summarize up what happened at the last meeting, I don't know, Dave, if you want to do a summary, you were there this time?
No, it's on TV.
So, for the administrators, and essentially we, as a study committee, looked at, we made no real decisions or movement forward. We looked at various options and thought about the fact that we do have a timeline out there. If we are looking to merge together for the secondary level of tax incentives, there's a definite timeline. There's a definite timeline to merge together by the law as well. So the options that are out there are still what we looked at the chart way back in December. We revisited some of those options, and then we specifically talked about Vernon and what Vernon might have for options and thoughts. And I think, Ron, you might want to discuss that one.
Yeah, Vernon met Monday night, and we followed this flow chart with them, and they support the concept of leaving the Union High School District to maintain their high school choice. So in order to do that and have a vote August 9th, they would have warning articles ready for July 6th, I think it is. That would allow the study committee to continue with the unified Union District. As Jill just said, I think there'll be another look at the different options that a subcommittee looked at, and I don't know that there was two subcommittees, but I think to have more discussion at the full study committee level makes sense. It looks like if we did go ahead with the merger with the conventional, just talked to somebody from the AOE today, they would be talking about the September State Board of Education meeting instead of August. And so there's kind of there's a flow chart here, and then there's a more detailed schedule that you can take a look for yourself. But the key dates would be the August vote for Vernon, and then a November vote for the rest of the districts.
And so the question that's still out there is if, a couple of questions. Vernon, except under Act 46 and being part of trying to merge in a different way with the rest of the supervisory union. Otherwise, if we weren't voting as a supervisory union, the rest of us in other towns, we would have to be, if we weren't voting to be merging in some other way, we would actually have to have a vote saying that we release Vernon. The rest of the towns would have to release Vernon. So this is a slightly different way of doing that, because no town can just suddenly say, I leave the Union High School. It's set up.
So that's what the November vote would allow.
So that, in essence, this August vote is simply saying to the rest of us what Vernon really wants to do. Is that clear enough statement? Yep. So there was some discussion as well of Dummerston. Seems to be some feeling anyway from some folks in Dummerston that maybe they might like to do the same thing as Vernon. And there's some discussions of the financial implications on that and the legalities. And our next meeting, we aren't meeting for 3 whole weeks, which is highly unusual in this group. So we're not meeting till like June 18th or 16th?
It's tentatively scheduled, 16th.
And at that point, we're supposed to have Chris Leopold to talk to us about the legalities and what that would
Will
mean.
Frank have the financials and the financial implications?
He's got those down.
Okay.
So we
With
can
Vernon,
look at that.
Be more
with
specific.
Vernon, if Vernon
Yeah,
would
yeah,
leave,
it's
and then
really-
say Demerston would want to leave.
What is
I
that?
don't know that he'd have that for the 16th.
So there's lots of things that are still up in the air. There's absolutely nothing decided. Is the bottom line. Mark, anything to add to that?
Nothing constructive.
Kim? David, you were there too. Anything to add?
Lots up in the air.
Thank you for the thought.
What's that?
Thank you for the thought.
I guess the only other comment I would make is the same thing that I made at the beginning of the 46 study committee meeting itself, that I feel like there's, for me personally, I spend a lot of mental energy on trying to figure out different things and what that means, and listening to somebody and thinking, what does that really mean to the issue at hand? What's the assignment here? I mean, what are we trying to do? And to me, the whole reason for the law is 2 parts. And one is to ensure equity for all the kids in our supervisory union. And the second is to hopefully make it better for the taxpayers at the same time. So I'm trying to listen to everything at this point now with the lens of what does that mean to kids? And I think before I wasn't listening to it that way. I was listening to it just in general of what does that mean? How does that play out? How do I make that person happy? Is there a way that something else can move or whatever? But I'm not doing that anymore mentally. I'm trying to figure out everything through the lens of what does that mean for a kid and the education that we provide to a kid. And kind of put that as the litmus test. Whether that works, I don't know. That's my latest thought. Okay, so any other unfinished business? From the last, just occurs to me, from the last meeting, we did take an actual motion that we wanted to urge the supervisory union to move forward with starting the process of looking for a superintendent.
Oh, yes.
And we did discuss that at the supervisory union, and Ron assured us that there's a process started and the finance committee started it, so.
Yeah, that's what I'd like to spend some time.
But the motion, point being that the motion was heard, well, I didn't bring it up as a motion, but we did bring it up at the supervisory meeting. All right, so new business, food service contract, possible increase, action needed.
Yeah, so this is the 4th year of a 5-year contract, and essentially what this represents is continuing with cafe services, the 4th year out of a 5-year contract. As we spoke to you previously, this year coming, we are going to, we're moving to universal breakfast and lunches, meaning all students will have free breakfast and lunch.
Which also means that if we have more participation, we're better off financially.
Right. So let me just do a quick outline based on their initial projections. With all 3 schools involved, because of their free and reduced lunch rates, it would be a negative cost of $1,100. Now that's offset by the $13,000 in debt that we don't collect from families, so it's a real plus. But in meeting with cafe services and the principals, we talked about increasing the quality of the food, and that was a big element of their final proposal. I'll just read off a list of things that we talked about. Less sugar, corn syrups, less processed meats, more vegetables, yogurt with less sugar, whole grain breads, and, talked about the cost impact. And so they calculated that in terms of the menus, and with an improved menu, the surplus, or what we would additionally pay, is $36,000. Now, we had set aside $40,000 in this year's budget coming forward to improve the quality of lunch or the food. But again, if you take that $36,000 that we're adding, take the $13,000 off in terms of the loss of debt that we don't collect, the impact is about $23,000 additional. So we think that's a really good cost for universal meals.
And that's based on what percentage of kids actually participating?
I don't know that I have that here, but it's a good percentage, and it's...
In comparison to what's participating now?
Well, is that reflected in the free and reduced lunch numbers?
Yeah.
Do they actually participate, or there's two different numbers?
No.
Those are
numbers.
I don't think I have
Because
that.
it's how many kids actually choose to take breakfast. The more kids that actually choose to take breakfast at the school is how we get a better reimbursement back.
Yeah,
on
this
it.
would be based on 80% for lunch and 50% for breakfast. And they thought those were pretty reasonable numbers.
So just
for example, Green Street School, we did a dry run the other day. We wanted to see what it would look like if we offered universal free breakfast, because we have to change our structure and how we did it due to the building layout. Typically, we have 60 to 70 kids excess breakfast. On this dry run, which I think we could have publicized better, we had 130 kids. So that's a big difference.
Yeah, because we do track that number already. And you guys are only about a third of your population eating breakfast.
We are.
And Andy, where are you here? 70 out of almost 400. So we're a long ways from 80.
Well, 50 for
It would be 50 for breakfast.
50 for breakfast.
And, these aren't contingent on those numbers, those are just projections.
Yeah, but our amount that we spend goes up if we don't get that.
It will not, based on this contract. There's a ceiling in terms of what our costs would be. What it would do is...
Cafe services has to make up the
Right,
difference.
what they feel pretty confident about is the numbers that will offset to bring in more federal money. So if anything, it could reduce our costs. So I think we're in a good position.
Okay, so
The biggest increase on this is improving the menu, not universal. It's improving the menu selections and the ingredients that we're using. So eliminating things like high fructose corn syrup, which has an expense to it. But universal is not going to make it be more expensive.
And what was your favorite that you went to?
Breakfast burritos?
That's it. Are they still on the list?
So we're going to need a motion to extend the contract for another year.
So moved.
I'll second that.
Any discussion? The only discussion thought is, and I guess it doesn't matter, but it just feels funny that we are encouraging kids to not eat breakfast at home with their own family. But that said, in my own family, they don't all want to get up and they want to grab something on the way out the door and they're happy to eat somewhere else later on.
Well, and nowadays with parents, they might be heading to work and they can't eat anyways, they're getting ready for work.
Well, we, philosophically, we've always said that we don't want every kid to come to breakfast. We still want families to value having a meal with their kid. And so we want to ensure that every kid is fed for breakfast, whether it's home or with us. If the family can't because of their schedule, because of finances or whatever, we want to make sure that the kid gets fed a nutritious, healthy meal, period.
It's one of those issues that connects to all other issues.
Yeah.
We know that good, healthy nutrition relates to learning, relates to safety, relates to being physically fit, to all kinds of things. So we all want our kids, I mean, I don't want my personal kids to eat a bunch of corn syrup and white bread or whatever. So if we have a responsibility to kind of give access to all the kids in our district the same option, I personally don't care if they don't eat it on Monday, but they eat it on Tuesday and Wednesday. I mean, it's just as they need it. It can be the one key thing that children are missing, that when they have it together, it can help bring the rest of the puzzle. And I think awareness of that has happened over the last 10 years specifically, and I think it's super important.
Logistically, how is this affecting the school day? If you're going to increase the breakfast program, that's got to take a bite out of that educational time someplace, isn't it?
Well, we've discussed a program called Breakfast After the Bell, which means that you would serve breakfast in the classroom, and that would impact. But we haven't decided to do that at Academy. We're probably not going to do that. We're probably going to continue to do breakfast before school. So the bell rings at 8:18. Kids arrive at 7:50 right now, so there's a big window. We do have a lot of kids because some of the buses stagger in. We do have to improve. We do have to get some of the buses in earlier, because one of the obstacles that some kids face is the bus doesn't get in time for them to have breakfast somewhere. It's a hassle shuffling breakfast down to a student. And I've learned that the younger grade kids don't mind eating a breakfast during morning meeting or during morning lessons, but the older kids don't like to do that. So we've got to find a way with the bus company to get kids in a little bit earlier. But what we're projecting right now will not take away any time from the classroom.
And then the other question I have is on a healthy snack. We're still doing that program in all the schools. Is there any way to use any of the food that comes in for the breakfast program into the healthy snack program for a kid who doesn't want to eat at 8 but does want to eat at 10:30? Or yeah, we talked about it, but I don't think it was clear.
Regulations around serving.
I thought they had basically to do with a healthy snack of fruit of some type.
Fruits and vegetables.
Produce, yeah.
Grains, yeah.
The grant provides for the produce. So, I mean, at 10, if a child came in and missed breakfast, for example, but they were hungry, they would get a healthy snack now, and that will continue. Did I answer your question?
Well, I just wondered if we can use any of the funding, because we're paying for healthy snack as well, but if we can't use any of this breakfast, switch it over. It has to be fed breakfast hour, and healthy snack has to be fed healthy snack hour.
But a banana's still a banana, right?
Right, but it's not paid for, so it
Depends
stays
on when
in
you
that
eat it.
box.
And we also, we've made some pretty good strides over the last 3 or 4 years with the lunch program, and all 3 schools offer the after school meal program, AMP. When there's activities, any child, right now it's universal, it's not free or reduced. Every kid who's in attendance can get a free meal for all of our after school activities. And that's a good thing.
Okay, are we ready for a vote? Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All right. What's left on the agenda?
Next agenda items.
Next agenda items we already discussed because it's a preschool forum. And
So
then,
I would ask for-
right, and then after that, our next
Well-
meeting is not till August.
Yeah, I would, for the next agenda, I'd suggest we bring things that we want to talk about at our goal-setting meeting,
That would be good.
so we have some frame to understand what we're going to do then.
Yeah, we may actually do the next agenda as our only item
next
of
agenda.
business,
Yeah.
really, because
Yeah,
otherwise
it's just
the
a good idea to
preschool
think about it.
follow-up, and it's kind of focused on that.
Jill, so the meeting schedule is
So June 29th, Wednesday, and I believe we said 5, right? And that's what we're advertising the preschool forum starting at 5.
And then August.
Where's that meeting?
It's BES and Bird Street and the air conditioning. And then we'll we'll probably start the meeting with about 5 minutes of looking at our goal setting and what we're kind of playing with that, and then going to preschool for the rest of it. And then we don't meet in July, and then August 22nd or something?
No, it's
It's late.
It's like 20
August 24th.
24th. And that one was, what time of day?
It's at 3.
Okay. I think that one was at EES
Yes,
too.
yes.
Hoping that there's space available. Okay, so then at this point, we need a motion to enter into executive session for personnel matters.
So moved.
Second.
I guess the administrators are off the hook.
Off the hook.
Jane?